afternoon, everyone. How about now? No. Hi. They can hear me online. Can you hear me in here? Yay! Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on this Tuesday, July 22nd, to the Rotary Club of Gainesville meeting at the Cade Museum. Please silence your cell phones, and if you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to register your participation by sending an email to info@rotarygainesville.org. Please join me in welcoming Pete Enwall to the podium to lead us in song and pledge.
Some woodpeckers from Florida decided they wanted to move to California, so they did. And so they thought maybe they'd explore the place, and they went to the Petrified Forest part first. But the trees were impeccable. They don't get any better. We're going to sing My Country 'Tis of Thee. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Will you join me in pledging allegiance to our flag, wherever it is? In your heart, okay? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Sergeant Donovan.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Tom. And now Ernie Hull for our invocation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I don't know if my joke's going to be any better than Pete's, but we're going to try. You know, late one night, a burglar broke into a house, and while he was sneaking around the house, he heard a voice saying, "Jesus is watching you." He's looking around, he couldn't see anything, sneaks around a little more, and goes, "Jesus is watching you." All of a sudden, he sees a bird cage over in the corner, and he goes over. "Was that you talking?" he asked the parrot. And the parrot said, "Yes." He said, "So what's your name?" The parrot said, "Clarence." He said, "It's a pretty stupid name for a parrot." And the parrot said, the guy said, "What idiot named you Clarence?" He said, "The same idiot that named the dog, the Rottweiler, Jesus." And I just messed that joke up. See, I told you it was not going to be a good joke. I'm raining on your parade. Let's pray. Lord, we are thankful for this day and everything that you've given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, and yes, even its challenges. May we appreciate and use each day that comes to us. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, for each day's duties, and for each day's problems. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence with us. Bless this food and the hands that have provided it and prepared it. In your name we pray. Amen.
We invite you to be seated, and for our guests and visiting Rotarians, please remain so you can be introduced to our club.
I'm loving the
Ooh. No sound troubles there.
all the way live. I have with me my guest Calvin. He's with Lucinda's handyman, and he was He's the son of former Rotary Jody Davis, correct? So,
Doctor, put it that way.
Hello, fellow Rotarians. I'm very happy to have Lynn Black from the school board back with us again to celebrate the Undy 500.
We're fortunate to have at our table Dr. C, and I won't try to pronounce the last name, who is our speaker today.
Thank you all for joining us. And now for an announcement on the Undies 500.
I hope everybody got here early enough to see the slideshow that Lynn brought, which was a collection of the thank you notes that the nurses have sent to us this past year for our contributions last year. As Helen always talks about, this underwear drive is incredibly important to our school nurses, and it's also incredibly important to the parents, because not only are the children affected when they have an accident or they're in need of this supply, but the parents that have to take off from work and go deal with that and go help their children, and maybe don't have time to bring their children back to school, or they have to track somebody down if they aren't able to leave their own place of business. So this gives the children an opportunity to stay in school, keep learning, and continue their day with as little interruption as possible. Anything we can do to help keep kids in school, that's what we want to do. So we're going to be collecting cash. There's QR codes if you want to make an online donation. There is a Amazon shopping link now that was sent out in the newsletter, and you can always bring us supplies, or if you have any questions, you can see me, you can see Jenny, you can see Lynn, and then of course Helen when she's back. Thank you guys very much for supporting this project.
And now please join me in welcoming our president, John Thomas, to the podium.
Thank you, Jenna, for standing in for both of our Sergeant of Arms. Unfortunately, Randy is not feeling too well, and Eric is out of the country. But we had a great social last week. Thanks everybody for coming that made it, and we'll be having another one next month, and Ryan will be letting us know where that'll be soon. Can you hear me? Just want to make sure that it's loud enough for you. Very important, RLI is coming to Gainesville on August 23rd. We really need some people to sign up, because it's much nicer to come to have RLI here than having to travel someplace else. So we need to make sure we get people registered for that. Last week, we had a little information about the Ignite app. I hope everybody took the chance to download that. We're going to have a little bit more training around that in the future. And what's really nice about that is we all got an email this week about our invoice. You can just pay it directly from your phone. And so there's lots of different things that we can do there. It is now my pleasure to announce today's speaker. Teresa Cornacchione earned her doctorate in political science from Florida State University in 2018. Go Noles. Prior to pursuing her PhD, Dr. Cornacchione, sorry, Dr. Z, worked at Florida Public High School as a public high school teacher in Santa Rosa County. After receiving her doctorate, she taught political science courses at FSU. She then served as a legislative policy analyst with the Florida Legislative Office of Program Policy Analysis and Government Accountability. She joined the Bob Graham Center and the University of Florida in 2022. Currently, Dr. C serves as the Civic Engagement Coordinator, Undergraduate Research Coordinator, and Lecturer at the Bob Graham Center for Public Service.
Thank you for that. I'm sorry I don't have any bird-related jokes to open up with, but I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for hosting me. I relish the opportunity to talk about the work that the center does, and I'm hoping that we can have wonderful conversations about the work that the Bob Graham Center is involved with as well. And also, thank you for coming today. I know it is not the loveliest of days to travel as well. As you heard, I'm a political scientist by training. I teach courses predominantly on policy and gender and politics. But in the Graham Center, all of us have service roles. And so I'll talk a little bit about the big service roles that we do in the center. That's mostly student facing, but we do a lot of things that are also community facing as well. There we go. So when I give presentations to students about the Graham Center, I have to explain who Bob Graham was, and I'm pretty excited that I probably do not have to do that today, but we are founded by the late Senator and former Governor of Florida, Bob Graham. We were founded in 2006. So we're approaching our 20th anniversary. And we have a lot of big events that are coming up to celebrate 20 years on the campus of the University of Florida. We love to honor our founder's legacy. He really believed that democracy was not a spectator sport and that it was really important for citizens to acquire tools to be active and effective participants in our system. And so an organization like this is a perfect example. Whether or not it's overtly political, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that people come together over shared interests and community really does enhance civic life. And so we at the Graham Center want to honor his legacy every day that we connect with students and the greater campus community and the greater Gainesville community as well. Quick snapshot of our faculty and staff at the Graham Center. We are recently going through some changes. So some of you may have known our former director, Matt Jacobs, who has now moved into an associate provost position. We are very excited to have him there. Stepping into the interim director role is Marianne Vernetson, who has an MPA. She's been associate director at the center for quite some time. We also have teaching faculty that kind of range across disciplines. So we have Dr. Arrow, who is our international experiential learning coordinator. We have Dr. Bird, who does our domestic experiential learning programs. We also have me, and I do a lot of political science, civic engagement, and research. Dr. Karras, who is our undergraduate academic coordinator. Becca Burton, who does our Golf Scholars program, which I will talk about in a moment. And then we have two wonderful support staff, Dorothy Zimmerman, which I think several of you probably know or may know Dorothy, who is our wonderful communications director, and then Shireen Muhammad, who's our academic and administrative specialist. So one of the big things that we do at the center are our academic programs. We house an international studies major to help students internationalize their degree and get interaction with more global communities. Approximately 150 students on the university campus are majoring or either their primary major or secondary major international studies. We recently added, as of last year, a public service minor. And this minor is meant to pair with any major on our campus for any student who may want to pursue a career in public service. And so we can imagine across a lot of career fields, there is a public service component, whether that is health or engineering or education. There is a public service component in so many facets and industries that this allows students a lot of opportunity to learn about nonprofit management and public leadership and these sorts of skills. We also added the Golf Scholars program, which is a multifaceted program, but one of our big academic components is this medallion program that we just started, which now has about 150 students participating. So this is a special credential that students can earn on their diplomas to indicate they have taken specialized courses about the golf community's sustainability and sort of how to work within golf communities to enhance quality of life. We have several research initiatives, and I'll kind of talk about Golf Scholars first because there's so many things. It's interdisciplinary, it's focused on golf communities, and it is funded through the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. So this was part of the BP oil spill settlement, that chunk of change. And so there are a range of universities across the Gulf Coast, across various states that house Golf Scholars programs. What makes ours unique is it's not just STEM focused, but it's also social sciences and humanities focused as well. So we have a number of students participating, whether it's in coursework, the medallion program, experiential learning and research opportunities. There is a great group who has gone to Pensacola to do and collect oral histories of people living on former Superfund sites and how that has greatly impacted them. And the QR codes up there next to that main picture will take you to a website that can show the oral histories and the kind of experiences that they've gathered. It's really incredible. The students put together this wonderful site with resources, interviews, maps, I mean, all kinds of things to kind of illustrate how living in a highly polluted area has had long-term and systemic impacts on that particular Gulf community. So there are projects like that. There are projects related to reefs and the restoration of shoreline and all kinds of things that our students are involved in. Becca Burton, who runs our Gulf Scholars Program, is always looking for great community partners. So if there's any of you who work in a space where you think you might benefit from, some students helping you or working on a particular project, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be social science or humanities, it can be STEM-based, it could be health-based, it could be just about anything. You are free to scan that code and talk to her. She is always looking for some really good community partners for our students and to provide additional opportunities. We also in-house promote the research development and teach students how to be responsible and good researchers. We do this in a number of ways. One is our Civic Scholars Program. This is an introductory course that shows students how to construct an academic research project from beginning to end. So mostly focused on the social sciences, so they develop their own research questions. They learn how to do a literature review. They learn about data sources. They learn about how to conduct research in a very kind of hand-holding kind of a way. But at the end of it, they get to present their research at our annual research symposium. And we are growing this aspect of the center. So we always are looking for people who have different expertise in different area to help serve as discussants, to help, facilitate guest speaker opportunities. We like to bring in people with specific knowledge to help talk about the content area. So while we teach them, this is how you find a good source and a good reliable database, they sometimes need a little support with content. And so we flip the course back and forth every spring between focusing on global politics and policy and focusing on domestic policy issues. So we've had projects looking at clean water in urban areas. We've had projects looking at how the U.S. can best facilitate good diplomatic relationships with different areas. So we have a wide spectrum of projects. We also have, for our more advanced students, funded research opportunities through the Haskell and Askew Scholars. These scholarships relate to the sort of mission of the Graham Center about public service, public leadership, and civic engagement. Students here pursue either an international topic or a domestic topic of their focus, of their choosing. They have a faculty mentor, and they receive $2,000 across the academic year to support their research efforts. And this is money in their pockets. We don't attach it to anything. We don't make them, show us receipts. So our attitude is if it allows them to buy groceries or maybe not work as many hours at their part-time job and instead work on their projects, we think that's money well spent. And they also will present at our research symposium as well. And some really great research projects this past year. We had one about how people with ADHD serve as witnesses in crimes and sort of how reliable their statements are. We've had all kinds of really neat topics. We also support domestic experiential learning opportunities. So 3 big ones are, one is our Washington internship program, where students do actually go into congressional offices in DC, and the Tallahassee internship program, which is every spring to coincide with the legislative session. Students work in those offices. And then we just opened up a new one called it's a local one called Civigators. And this is something that students can work with somebody locally or an agency or a group in Gainesville, Alachua County as an intern. And so this is also another great opportunity for community partners to become involved in terms of providing these opportunities for our students who are interested in public service. We also have global internships. We have support and financial assistance for students who want to pursue a global internship, whether that means working like in the State Department or something like that, or in an embassy, or even going overseas to work somewhere. And we also have a study abroad program, which is brand new. So the inaugural group is in Istanbul right now. So very exciting to get their pictures back. And so we provide these opportunities for our students fully funded. And so we try to make a commitment that financial barriers are not going to be a barrier for a student getting a great experience and getting the experiences that they deserve. I'll talk a little bit about my role, my service role in particular, civic engagement and voting. And so one of my big duties is to promote student voting and community engagement broadly. And voting gets a lot of attention because it happens so frequently, but I like to think that we at the Graham Center serve as a great home for nonpartisan voting and civic engagement opportunities for our students. So we are a registered third-party voter registration organization, which means that we actually can register voters, and we do register voters. We work with UAA to register student athletes during their orientations. We also work with other organizations around campus to help students register to vote or learn how to do their mail-in ballots. Or even request a mail-in ballot. And we're really proud of the work that we have done so far. So we have been designated for 2 election cycles in a row a voter-friendly campus, which means that our president of the university has signed on to a commitment to asking every student if they're registered to vote and facilitating that. It also means that we make information accessible and easy, and we do that through a variety of ways. We have a website called vote.ufl.edu. We also participate in what's called UF Turbo Vote, which is not something just for students. UF Turbo Vote is a platform paid for by the University of Florida, so it's passed all of its security screenings. And what it does is it allows the user, regardless of where they're registered to vote, whether that's here in Alachua County or back home in New York or Alaska, to receive important, pertinent voter information and key reminders. And the reminder service is really, really important to getting students in particular, but most people out to vote. And so in the political science literature, you know, we often cite, okay, well, if people are registered, that means that they'll go vote. Not necessarily. People sometimes register, especially young people, will register when somebody comes to their high school or something and then forget all about it. But we have found that reminders are incredibly effective tools. So even just getting a little push on their phone is enough to remind them to go vote. And so we did some analysis on this in 2022. Students, and I looked at the wider Gainesville community as well, who got a reminder were 22% more likely to actually show up and vote. And they were more likely to utilize things like early voting and mail-in voting, which is really important because typically convenience voting measures like that are things that are often underutilized by less active populations, right? And so this is something that was a real boon for them. And it was particularly impactful on students of color, where that 22% is an average across all students. It actually jumped to a 60% increase among students of color. So this was a really important thing, you know, to increase turnout. We, as a university community, have a higher voter turnout rate than most universities. We're about 20 percentage points above the national average. And in 2024, if we looked across all of the campus-serving precincts, about 20,000 people showed up to vote on Election Day. And so that is an incredible number that we're really, really proud of. You can also sign up for election reminders. It's not just for students. It only pings you 3 times. It welcomes you, it reminds you when early voting is starting, and then it reminds you on Election Day. And it actually contains links to how to find your precinct and all of that, which is a really, really important tool. Also, every other year, I'll just kind of casually mention this, we do participate in a competition with the University of Tennessee to see who can get more people enrolled in TurboVote, and we have beaten them the past 2 years by over 1,000 enrollees. So that's nice too. We have several student organizations that I'll quickly talk about. Our fellows are our ambassadors. If you ever come to one of our events, you are most likely going to meet them. They wear these little blue polos, and they help us out a lot. They also do work in the community. Too, there's a picture of them working with another one of our student organizations at Bread of the Mighty Food Pantry. We also have the undergraduate mock trial team as one of our sponsored organizations. They are always also looking for people to volunteer to serve as judges at their tournaments. And so if you have a legal background, that's a great way to get involved with students. We also have the Freshman Leadership Council, which is about 50 freshmen from across the campus, different majors represented, who learn leadership skills. They are also always looking for guest speakers and opportunities to engage with the community. And the Florida Political Review is a publication that we have where students can write basically op-ed pieces about Florida politics. We also have one student policy initiative called the Future of Florida Summit. The Future of Florida Summit happens every spring, and this is a weekend-long event where students from across the state, so any university or college student in the state of Florida is eligible to apply, and they come for a fully funded weekend where they learn from content and policy experts in a particular topic, and then they work with a team to develop a public policy proposal on that particular topic. So last year's topic was sustainable Gulf communities. So we saw a variety of projects about food deserts and cleaning up, various coastal areas or creating better hospital access in rural areas and in rural communities. A great way for community members to become involved is to volunteer to speak. At these policy sort of summits, we're always looking for people who have good working knowledge in a particular field to talk about their experiences. So we've done topics like health and education as well in the past. This year, it's going to be urban development and sustainability, and so building infrastructure across the state in a sustainable, responsible way. So another great opportunity for community members to become involved is volunteering and being able to speak at their particular sessions. I wish I had more we have a lot of upcoming events, but few of them are actually formally calendared, but we always have a lot of events coming up. So I'll point out some key ones that may be of interest. On Saturday, September 20th, we will be at the Millhopper Library location with the Supervisor of Elections Office and the League of Women Voters of Alachua County to talk about voting myths, and we will talk about sort of how best to overcome any challenges or barriers there are to voting, and that is a community event. We also are hosting a public program with foreign policy expert Hagar Shamali, who worked in the National Security Agency. She also is an adjunct professor at Columbia University, and she has been on the media to talk about different foreign policy, national security issues as well. And then we are also hosting New York Times bestselling author Michael Grunwald on Friday, November 14th, in addition to lots of other things. Those are our big formal ones that are calendared right now. But we have a lot of public programs and events that we host pretty regularly at the Graham Center. The best way to learn about those things and stay ahead of those things is to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. That's where we will advertise events that are open to the public. They are always fully catered, by the way. I think that's always a big draw. There's very few Graham Center events that don't come with food attached, so it's always a really nice event to attend. So staying in tune with those newsletter updates is great. I think I put my email up there, and I can certainly share it too if you have any questions. I'm always looking for guest speakers as well, so I'd love to hear from any of you if you're looking to be involved in our center and the life that it provides. Thank you. Yeah, I could ask Brendan if he could put that. There it is. And of course, you can follow us on social media. And I think we have Q&A, but I don't know if anybody has questions.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I'm going first because I was the closest one to the guy handing out the microphone. I noticed that you teach international politics, and so I have two international politics questions. But before that, I just want to ask you, do you guys interface at all with the Center for Conservative Studies? That's a joke. The two questions are, China has recently engaged in a demonstration of its naval might by going through the South China Sea and also then encircling the entire country of Australia. So my question is, would you give us your thoughts on what they're doing with that? That was the first question. The other question has to do with NATO. It seems that the NATO countries are rearming. I noticed that my Swedish cousin tells me they are. And I know that some of that has to do with Trump, but I think that they also fear Russia. And could you comment on the extent to which that you think that fear is a real fear?
Okay, so couple of things. So while we do house the international studies major, my secondary field was international relations for my doctorate, but I'm not an expert on those two particular questions, more so the NATO stuff, because I did more work on European politics. But so I think a lot of the questions about China, I have a few thoughts. I think a lot of it is posturing. I mean, this posturing is nothing that new. They do this, periodically. I think the foreign policy focus of this administration on China has been, I don't know, particularly well deserved the attention. People think of China as this big powerhouse, but I think that they certainly have that capability, right? But China also has a lot of domestic policy issues that they have to focus on as well, right? So in terms of the level of concern about that, I don't view it with a lot of concern. NATO now, the NATO countries, I think what you're dealing with here is a lot of things that happen in European politics are deep-seated consequences from early 20th century. So with European politics, there's this, I think, continual fear, right, of conflict. You have a very bad faith actor in Russia who has moved Russia way further to the authoritarian side of things. I think there's a response from NATO based on Trump administration behavior, right, with regard to Ukraine. And I think there's a little less confidence, right, in the United States as an ally. European countries are dealing with a lot in that respect. So a lot of people have focused quite a bit on the rise of alt-right and white supremacy organizations in the United States. Those have been very active in Europe for the past 20 years. And certainly since the early 2010s, you're talking about multiple domestic parliaments being not overrun, but dealing with substantial minorities parties in place that are far right. And so I think they're dealing with a lot of different sort of threats. And those internal threats from those alt-right parties are destabilizing because there is a natural inclination towards authoritarianism within those parties. And so I think that NATO trying to take, NATO is a sum of its parts, right? And so I think NATO, taking these efforts and member states in NATO taking these efforts may in part be because of consequences from earliest 20th century and not wanting to repeat these things. These are deeply ingrained experiences. So that's sort of like my perspective on it.
Thank you for your presentation. You have several international students. I'm wondering, are they worried about being, yeah, okay. They're a little worried about having to leave the country. Is that correct?
Yes, they're very worried. I had a young woman in my class this summer who has lived here since she was 10. Her family is Polish, and she's very worried about some of the fallout or consequences from policy, right? And so she expressed, I don't know what I would do if I have to go back to Poland because I don't really know. I mean, like I don't really have a real working memory of living there. And I think that is one particular anecdotal piece, but we do hear from a lot of international students how concerned they are. Even in my discipline, our big annual conference is going to be in Vancouver in September. And there's, scholars that come from all around the world. And there is a very big concern about traveling to and from, and, international scholars housed in the United States, if they go to Vancouver, what does that mean? How does it mean for getting back into the United States? So there is deep, deep concerns.
Battery. Long walk for you. Robert Mouse, I want to let you know, first of all, we're a very diverse group here, but we have some old friends of the Graham Center, particularly Marion Colburn,
Yes.
who is a member of our club. I'm former counsel for a couple of years to Ruben Askew, way back in the day. And I have two questions.
Yes.
What is your relationship now with the Hamilton Center?
Okay.
And where does the old political science department that I graduated from when Manning Downer was the chair, how do they fit into the mix? And the last thing is, where do people park when they want to come?
So I'll address the most difficult question first, which is after 4:30, a lot of parking restrictions are lifted. So you can park in a lot of those areas. In the summer, it's really nice because they change a lot of the lots. Usually for a lot of our events, we try to reserve parking in the Murphy lot or in O'Connell. So usually if you follow some of our events there, we will have parking instructions too. Then your other question was about the Hamilton School and then the political science departments, right? Okay. So I'll kind of work backwards there. So I'm actually an affiliate faculty with the political science department. We have affiliate faculty in our department who are full-time in poli-sci. And so we do keep a lot of open relationships with them. So a lot of our courses that like I offer in particular are cross-listed with political science. So a student can enroll in, one course code and still get political science credit, for that. I have graduate faculty status there, so I can serve on committees and things of that nature. And then we do work with them on programs and stuff. So we've invited faculty members from their department, as well as many others, to come and speak as experts or in, tandem with other panelists. We recently, in February, participated in an election forum, so kind of a post-mortem on the 2024 election and a look ahead to 2026, really Florida focused. And that was in concert with the Political Science Department's Master in Political Campaigning program. So we actually worked really closely with them as well. And the Hamilton School was a sponsor of that too. And so we do collaborate with the Hamilton School on certain things. They worked with us to host a bunch of middle and high school civics teachers in June. That was part of a U.S. Capitol Historical Society program. We worked with them and the Lou Fry Center at UCF to deliver some content. They have a state mandate, the Hamilton School does, on K through 12 civic education. And so sometimes we kind of work with that. And the thing to remember too at the Hamilton School is it's very big, as I think we know, right? And we don't really work with a lot of the teaching faculty there, a lot of the new faculty members that they have hired. So many of them are in the sort of political philosophy that kind of area. And that's kind of, not that it has no place in what we do, but ours is more sort of the modern, tangible civic experience. And so we don't really cross paths with a lot of the faculty that teach there, but we do work a lot, or not to say a lot, but we do collaborate on certain programs with their more service-oriented faculty. Dr. Inboden, who is the outgoing director, he had a very good working relationship with our outgoing director, Matt Jacobs, because they both studied foreign policy history, right? And so they had that in common, and they hosted a couple of joint events. So we work with them when it makes sense, just like we work with the communications school when it makes sense, or poli-sci, or people in the College of Medicine. So yeah, so occasionally we do work with them. I don't know if that totally answers your question. It's sort of a piecemeal operation.
Teresa, we have a question from Zoom from Jenny Van Hart, who is online and in person. She's everywhere. Her question is, does your voter drive extend to Santa Fe, or do they have their own Get Out the Vote programs?
Oh, at Santa Fe College. Yes, so we actually have worked with some of the people there at Santa Fe College. We hosted with the League of Women Voters and Santa Fe College a candidate forum. I've got to get my timeline, last November in 2024 for the local candidates, and we do work with them occasionally. We haven't extended necessarily voter registration drives to that campus as of yet. The student assistant who currently works with me on these initiatives transferred from there and is interested in bringing some of that work with them as well. It's always tricky with voter registration drives because the law is a bit of a moving target with that. So we are a registered 3P VRO, right? And so we always want to make sure that if we are working with a partner on voter registration drives, that like somebody from our team is there, right? And can help facilitate, you know, the issuing of receipts, the collection of forms, saying the correct information, right, as well. So that's something that we would potentially like to look at in the future because we have worked with them on other things. All right. Oh.
Teresa, thank you very much for joining us today. As a token of our appreciation, we're going to make a donation to the Rotary Foundation in your name.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. What a wonderful speaker. Make it back to my notes today. Just a quick reminder, next week we are going to be having the Rotary Youth Exchange presentation, so I hope everybody can join us. I will be out of town, so Jay will be leading the meeting next week. Lucky for you guys. The quote of the week: "The price good men pay for indifference in public affairs is to be ruled by evil men." Plato. And the winning Rotary Safari number is 697948, 697948. And we are officially adjourned.
Six, 9, 7, 9, 4, 8, I believe. Okay, no Yahtzee for you. No way.